Wherever you're listening in the world, it's a pleasure to welcome you to IsraelCast, the podcast powered by Jewish National Fund USA, your voice in Israel. I'm Stephen Shalowitz, first reminding you that for over 120 years, Jewish National Fund USA has been the premier philanthropic movement for the land and people of Israel. While best known for planting trees in Israel, JNF USA contributes to Israeli life in so many ways, including community development in the Negev and the Galilee, preservation of heritage sites, supporting people with disabilities, and connecting high school and college students to Israel. To learn more and to see how you can contribute, do visit jnf.org. Once again, jnf.org. Plus, if you haven't done so already, we'd love it if you subscribed, rated, and reviewed us, 5 stars, of course, wherever you get your podcasts. It's so easy. And we'd love it too if you shared the show within your orbit. And in just a moment, I'll be telling you why you need to be in Dallas, Texas. Mark your calendars from November 14th to the 17th, 2024. So listen out for that. But first, given the new school year set to start and the astonishing display of Jew hatred and anti-Israel activity that we saw in academic environments from K through 12 and on college campuses following the October 7th attack, well, we thought it was important to have Masha Merkulova join us again here on IsraelCast. Our guest on episode 168, Masha is the founder and executive director of Cluz Z, an organization that provides teens with a platform to connect to Israel, Jewish history, Zionism, and one another. Cluz Z's immersive, interactive sessions are taught by trained educators who have a proven track record of transforming teens into confident, knowledgeable advocates for themselves, for Israel, and for the Jewish people. And in full disclosure mode, yours truly, yes, I am a board member of Cluz Z, since I absolutely love the work and the mission of the organization, really in cultivating the next generation of proud and proactive Jewish Zionist leaders. And Masha joins us now on the line via Zoom. Welcome back to IsraelCast, Masha. And before anything, do give our listeners a little refresher on how Cluz Z started and what it's all about, really apart from what I just shared a second ago.
Stephen, thank you so much for allowing me this privilege to share the message again and be on IsraelCast with you. And very much welcome to the board. I'm very excited.
You and me both.
Cluz Z started, I'll just do a 30-second
Sure.
review. Humble beginnings in 2011, 2012, when I realized that with all of the rich and vibrant Jewish education that our kids get, the big missing part was really addressing the anti-Israel claims in a much more holistic way than just to give them talking points. It's building identity. It's connecting their Jewish identity to the land of Israel and into the people of Israel through Zionism, and also helping them understand that Judaism is not just a religion. It's a civilization. We're a people. We're connected to each other and to the land. And when Israel and Jews in Israel get attacked, it's not about Jews in Israel. It's about Jews everywhere. And we are, as sisters and brothers, need to understand it, need to be connected to it. And as the result, Cluz Z was born to really give the kids this connection and heavy-duty education, heavy-duty content, so that they can sink their teeth into it and not be afraid or be startled by the massive onslaught of Jew hatred that has been unleashed on us since October 7th.
Masha, congratulations and kol hakavod to you, because you were really way ahead of the curve. We're talking about like well over a decade ahead of the curve on all of this.
I don't know if I just didn't see this going anywhere else but downhill. If our Jewish kids a decade ago, 20 years ago, were already getting lost and were standing with, not Israeli flag and not proclaiming justice for Jews, but were proclaiming justice for another people, and nobody was addressing it. It was uncomfortable. It was maybe embarrassing, but nobody was addressing it. And, I'm a Russian Jew. I was in healthcare for 20 years. This is, you see a problem and you want to address it, and you want to address it in the most logical way. And the most logical way for me is not to talk about that we invented cherry tomatoes, because while we did, the accusation is that we planted these tomatoes in somebody else's land. So why don't we talk about that? And instead of pivoting the conversation or not addressing it, we go there. Let's talk about this. Where do Jews come from? That is the fundamental lesson. That is the ethos of Club Z. Where do Jews come from? We give a very simple answer. Jews come from Judea.
Well, I'm so glad you brought that up because oftentimes I have to tell people, there are Jews all over the world. We had to have come from somewhere. I mean, we didn't come from Uruguay.
Right?
So, we had to have come and originated in some place. So I'm really glad that you articulated that. Before anything else, we just want to give our listeners information that they can learn more at clubz.org. Once again, clubz.org. That's where they can learn so much about Club Z. And now, of course, I want to do a little bit more of a deep dive into the organization because there are really two pillars to Club Z: individual empowerment and community leadership. So let's cover each. And I want you to start, Masha, with individual empowerment and what that's all about in the Club Z context.
Stephen, I have to tell you, it was discovered that it's a side effect that we, of course, hoped for, but when we started talking to our alumni and their parents are a very big part of Club Z. It's really like a family endeavor. And our current students who've been with us for a couple of years, yes, they're much more knowledgeable about Israel and about Zionism and about modern issues. But the biggest change that happens is that they feel empowered, they feel heard, they feel like that they have a voice, and they feel confident enough to go and to raise questions and to write letters and to speak at city councils. And they feel like they matter. And our idea is that there's so few Jews in the world. We're still trying to make up for the, pre-Shoah time. So every single Jew matters, and they know that. And they know that they are makers of Jewish history. And that is the empowerment that they're experiencing. I was listening, I don't remember what I was listening to, but it was like, oh, it's such a burden. Our kids have to go and defend Israel. We flip that script. What an amazing opportunity you have to go and speak up on behalf of yourself as a Jew. So you're speaking up for your own dignity. You're speaking up for your own self-respect. We're not asking for anything more than, but we're not going to accept anything less. And that is an empowering statement for a teenager who are still searching for who they are.
I'm going to interrupt you there and just say that Colonel Richard Kemp, who is also a board member of Club Z, whom we had here on the program, said that it's his privilege and his honor to speak up for the state of Israel and for the Jewish people. So it's about flipping the script.
Right. Listen, there's 350 million Americans. How many of us, our voices matter much less than there is, 16 million Jews and only, 7 million of us in America. Like, we all matter. And that's why maybe, yes, we're just disproportionately maybe represented, but it's for the good.
Sure.
And that's why, the confidence is what our teenagers need. It's what all people need. And this personal empowerment comes from being confident in the cause, in themselves, and they know that they have a home front. They know that we will be there to support them.
And let's move on to community leadership. And then after that, I want you to share really the mechanics of Club Z in terms of the classes and what kids are really involved in and how they're getting this education. But if you could talk about community leadership first.
What is interesting is that community leadership, communal leadership, it happens organically wherever they are. So we have alumni who are now on college campuses, and we've been checking in with them throughout the summer. And they are creating their own communities. It's either their roommates or their Hillels, or they're forming their own groups, and they're the leaders of those groups. We have kids who are still in high school. So for example, over 20 of our kids in high schools have given presentations in their schools to their classmates, either because the teacher proactively reached out to them and said, you seem to know a lot about what is happening. I want to give you a class period, come present the Israeli-Hamas war. Or we have students asked questions during the class presentation of a teacher, and the teacher realized they don't know what they're talking about. And they, again, said, okay, send me what you want to say, send me your presentation. They look at it and they go, why don't you present in class? So imagine if more of Jewish kids did that, where they felt that they could take their community. We have a young lady on a rowing team who held a meeting for her rowing team to educate them about what is happening in Israel right now. And yes, of course, we want them, and they do. Our alumni, a lot of them are on student senate governments, and they're taking leadership positions. But again, we position it as your community is everywhere you are. You are going on a trip somewhere, you're sitting in the bus with people. This is your community. Go educate. You are having opportunity to speak about something else. Bring in the fact that you're Jewish. Bring in the fact that you've been to Israel. Make it part of everyday normal life. We have to normalize ourselves.
And the fact that they have this individual empowerment gives them the confidence
Right.
to go out into the world, to go out into the community, and to speak about Israel and about being Jewish. And we were talking before we started rolling that oftentimes we are going to be the only Jewish person that someone even meets or that has a conversation really about Israel.
Right. No, absolutely. I have one story. I have a young lady. Fortunately, I don't remember. It's an East Coast private university where there were 4 speakers on a panel to talk about IDF and what a horrible organization it is. Not only did she come herself, she organized a group of friends to come with her. So she led them there. She was the only one speaking up and asking the questions of the panel, but she brought the community with her. Again, to make sure that A, she's safe. That is now a concern for the Jewish people in the United States. And B, what she heard afterwards from her own friends saying, oh, I had no idea the things that you shared. I didn't know, even though we talk all the time. So again, it's the leading by example. And you don't have to have a big audience to make a big impact. You need to talk to the right people. And that is the whole point.
Masha, I don't know if I mentioned this before on the program or not, but my college roommate freshman year is not Jewish. He's Southern Baptist, and we got along perfectly fine. I think I was probably the only Jewish person up until that point that he met. So of course, he met others on campus. In any event, we had lost touch. We reconnected about 10 years ago or so. And after October 7th, he called me to ask questions and said, Stephen, what can I do? And I gave him podcasts to listen to, IsraelCast as well as others, books to read, people to follow on social media. And I said, you become aware, you educate yourself, and then I want you to share that information with your community. So I do really believe that it has to be on a person to person level as well. That is so important because you never know where those links in the chain lead.
Oh, 100%. By the way, if listeners would like to go to our website, and we have a tab called Israel at War, and there is a resource sheet. It is completely written, composed by our alumni. And, we published it on October 15th. It's been there. And I know just by the traffic of the website, it has been downloaded thousands and thousands of times. I know that one college, they printed 700 copies of them and distributed it. So we can't ask our students to defend or stand up for Israel without first giving them the knowledge and the mishpocha and the community, so they know when something happens, it's not if, it's when something happens, they can, they can text Colonel Camp and ask him questions directly. They can, they can pose a question in our WhatsApp chat and they'll get answers. Right now, speaking about preparing for September, for the fall, one of our students is taking an online course, World History,
Mhm.
and she posted a short excerpt of the class. And what the instructor is saying is horrible. So she posted and she said, I need to write. I didn't tell her, nobody told her. She proactively said, I'm going to write a letter to the organizers of this course. Here is what I already have that I identified in this video that is wrong. Can you guys add more context? And can you help me find sources and links so that my case is the strongest one? That is the leadership that we expect of our teens. We have another teen who wrote to Princeton Review, again, feedback and corrections on what they have done for AP history course. And now the Princeton Review has replied. It wasn't a boiler response. It was a response of, thank you very much. This looks disturbing. We will address it. And now we're waiting for them to come back to us. That is the leadership that is, not everybody can stand with Israeli flag on their corner. Okay, fine. You can find ways to lead because you're a Jew. We lead. We're bright lights. We're supposed to bring light into this world. Let's lead ourselves first and then lead the rest of the world.
Love it. That's why I wanted to get engaged with, Cluz Z and to be a part of it, really. So really, again, congratulations to you and the team. You just referenced the website a second ago. Let's just give it another shout out, clubz.org. Once again, clubz.org. Okay, in just a second, we're talking about what's going to be taking place in Dallas. I know I'm going to see you there. But before that, Masha, can you talk about some of the logistics, if you will, of Cluz Z? How's it organized? What are the sessions like? How many kids are we talking about?
So I'm very excited. This is going to be the big announcement on IsraelCast.
Drum roll, please.
Drum roll, please. We are rolling out a tiered approach to our education. So I'm going to start with our brand new program. We're calling it basic training. And it's exactly what it is. These are 10 sessions that is really not a huge time commitment, but it's once a month, it's for 2 hours, and it's going to be, the kids are going to be separated by age group. So we're going to have 8th and 9th graders together and 10th through 12th graders together. And right now we're about 60% through to our recruitment. So if people are in those locations where we are, which is Northern and Southern California, we are in Brooklyn, Livingston, New Jersey, Westchester. We're going to be in 5 towns, Long Island, and we are also in Charlotte, North Carolina. And these are the sessions, again, we have professional educators who are experts in their fields, who are excited to get these kids educated and engaged. And at the end of this basic training, they're going to have all of the information that they need to have intelligent conversation with a friend, with a teacher, with an adult. After they go through this basic training for first year, we're going to choose those who have shown leadership skills, and they're going to be invited to our leadership track. And this is a 2 to 3 year track. We're calling it Sayeret. And this is where kids dive into issues much deeper. So for example, we're discussing United Nations and its, huge biases against the Jewish state. We're diving much deeper into the bigger issues, into the international law, into what does it mean to be indigenous to the land, and they're getting a lot of professional development. So these kids get public speaking training, they get writing workshops, how to write effectively and persuasively, they get debate training, and they have opportunities to go to various conferences. For example, we're going to bring 10 of our leaders to the global summit of JNF.
That we're going to talk about in just a sec.
Yes.
And so these kids, so there's these different tiers, like you're saying, if you can carry on a little bit more about that.
So the idea is very simple. With basic training, we're going to cover, hundreds and hundreds of teens. We are, our goal is to have about 700 teens in this year alone, within all of the tiers. But to be honest, I already know it's going to be more, because since October 7th till the school year, we've covered about 1,500 teens. But again, I want to be careful. I don't want to promise and not deliver. I'd rather under-promise and over-deliver.
I'm with you on that.
Yes. And so, for example, right now, live, one of our amazing educators is at a summer camp doing education for 65 teenagers who are there. We are reaching out to the BBYOs and NCSYs and the local JCCs, because we don't always have to create our own. We can go where the kids are already. Jewish day schools, we'd love to go there and say, hey, we could be a great complement to what you're doing, because that will allow us also to center, and we don't have to do peoplehood and we don't have to do Jewish identity, because that's what they're great at. And that way we can only focus on very specific things. So we are ready to tailor it. The curriculum for basic training is extremely adaptable. My goal with this program is to raise general literacy when it comes to Israel among 13 to 16-year-olds. That is my major goal, because they get easily confused and we lose our children to the encampments. Oh, well, there are lots of Jews in the encampments. My answer to that is, so what? I'm sorry. What does that mean? I don't care. That's just the kids who are misinformed and are confused.
Agree 100%. Because, the thing, I mean, I was day school educated, okay, from second till eighth grade. Then I went to public high school. And I will say that the beauty of Cluz Z is that you fill an important need that is not being delivered in day schools, in many day schools, in Hebrew schools, and in other youth kinds of programs. And oftentimes this information is not given at home either. And so that's really the beauty of what you're doing. You're really providing this service and filling an important gap. And in addition to that, it's everything else about the public speaking and the writing and giving teens confidence. And these skills are things that they can use well beyond just the Israel and Jewish advocacy fields.
Absolutely. It's also, how do you handle yourself in an uncomfortable situation?
Yes.
How do you handle yourself in a hostile situation? So for us, it's going to sound extremely weird, but the last 9 months, for us, it's been kind of like kid in a candy store with the amount of Jew hatred everywhere, because that's where we go. So we bring our leaders, we bring our sayerets to these environments. We've brought them to every opportunity that we had to bring them to a ceasefire resolution by a city council meeting. We were there. And I can tell you, the kid who goes for the first time, they're shocked, they're not comfortable. If you've never been, if your listener's never been, next time it's on your city's agenda, please go. It's a scary place to be. But I can tell you, between mostly our teenagers and our parents, we have delivered 90 speeches at city councils, at education board of education meetings. There was a hospital that held a ceasefire resolution. Yes, I think we have lost our minds, but that is the whole point. The kid who has sat through a hostile environment with support of a staff or a parent is not going to be afraid anymore. They had to do a few of them, but when they sit through a BDS resolution at the Senate hearing of their college campus, they're not going to be startled. It's going to be like, oh, I've done this before. I can walk into that fire. I know what to say, and I know how to breathe, and I can stand up for myself. You need to do this exposure therapy. You have to do it. Otherwise, we're sending our kids. We know we're sending them to war, and we're not giving them any tools. This is unfair. And I think it's deeply unfair for the Jewish world to ask our young people to stand up for Israel without any preparation and talking points which was traditionally what was done, that is not enough. It's backfiring at us. We have to stop that. We have to start with identity building, connecting it to the global Jewish understanding of things, and then we can set the expectations of them to be proud, loud Jews that we need them to be.
They're going into war, and we need to give them the artillery, and we need to arm them. And that's really what it's all about. And that's what Cluz Z is doing, not only for the college experience, because we're talking about when it's Cluz Z, it's for teens, not only the college experience, but it's going to be what happens after college as well. And that's so critical because you have graduates that have gone on to do great things after college.
Yes, and I'm very proud. I have to say, I'm watching my, kids. They're not kids anymore. They're young adults, and they are so active on their social medias, and they are bringing their Jewish selves and their Zionist selves to their HR and to their, workplaces, and they are, they're not hiding. They're not hiding, and that is, I think, it's very important.
Yeah, you've given them that confidence. And that goes back to this notion of individual empowerment, which is one of the pillars of Cluz Z. Well, we've teased it out a couple of times already. Of course, the Jewish National Fund USA Global Conference for Israel. It's going to be taking place in Dallas, Texas from November 14th to 17th. And this is just such a wonderful time for Jews to come together, those that are in the Israel advocacy space to join hands. It's a conference filled with solidarity, inspiration, tactical and practical solutions, like what Cluz Z offers, to standing up against Jew hatred and in support of Israel. And we want everyone in earshot to go to jnf.org, and they can just navigate there because there's a link there to the conference, once again, November 14th to 17th. I know I've seen you at previous conferences, Masha. I saw you at the one in Denver this last year. I'll be in Dallas. I'm so excited to go. And speakers include the aforementioned Colonel Richard Kemp. He's going to be there.
Oh, that's great.
Did you not know that?
Did not know that. That's great.
Okay. Yeah, I've got a front row seat for Colonel Kemp. Actor, comedian Michael Rappaport is going to be there. I also have a front row seat. Just saying, no one take my seat because I'm going to be there in the front row. Broadcaster and activist Emily Austin, founder of MACA, that's Mothers Against Campus Antisemitism, Elizabeth Rand will be there. Rabbi David Wolpe, who is just phenomenal, is also going to be there. I'll have a front row seat, he wants to say, for all of them, actually. Once again, jnf.org, and you'll see the link there, and hope to see each and every one of you within earshot at the conference. And tell me, Masha, a little bit more about the Cluz Zers that are going to be there, and also JNF's connection with Cluz Z.
I'm so happy. So last conference was my first time at JNF Global Summit, and I was blown away. It felt so good because it was post October 7th. I think it's in November. Yeah,
it was in November. It was right before or after Thanksgiving.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was just so good to be with my people.
It was after Thanksgiving, by the way. Yes.
Yeah. And so so JNF also is going to run a teen summit. I'm very excited that Cluz Z is partnering with JNF to help provide educational content for the Teen Summit. They're expecting 200 teenagers. I think most of them are coming from Alexander Mas High School in Israel. And Cluz Z is really privileged to be a strong partner of JNF. We are recipients of the Baruchon grant, and just very excited about the opportunities to grow. One of the things that we're going to be doing is we're going to be providing our educational content and our education to the teens who are going to HSI. So they're going to have sessions with us before they go to Israel for high school, during, we're going to meet them again in Israel, and post-Israel. So we're going to have a special track for the JNF to send kids through, so they get, again, I have teenagers who've done HSI, and they come back and they rejoin Cluz Z. And I always wonder, like, guys, like you just spent a whole semester in Israel. Like, why do you want to come back to Club Z? And they said, because these two things make it for so much richer and much more rounded. And now we're connected to the land on a physical level. Now we're coming back to Club Z to connect to the understanding and the arguments and the rationale for all of the anti-Israel propaganda that unfortunately is at us literally at every corner. If I may, people asked me before, they don't ask me this anymore after October 7th. Before they would ask, well, do you show the other side? And I was always confused by that question. I'm like, what other side do you want me to show? Like, we're seeing the other side from social media, from the news, from, like, what do you want me to say? There are some positive silver lining. I'm always trying to find the silver, like what have we learned since October 7th? And I think a lot of Jews have learned that yes, we need to build bridges, we need to have allies, and yes, we need to educate ourselves and we need to educate our children, because we are a people with a suitcase.
Masha, you're originally from the Soviet Union. And so when you see all the propaganda out there, what goes through your mind as someone that was born where you were born?
It's not going to be complimentary to my fellow Americans, but the question that is in my mind is, when a Soviet citizen woke up in the morning and read the newspaper called The Truth, Pravda, we all knew that despite its name, there is not a shred of truth in that newspaper.
There's not a shred of Pravda in Pravda.
Correct. And so the consumption of news and of content, I think we need to understand that everybody has an agenda, everybody has a bias, and you need to know who you are, you need to know who your values are, and then go consume your information. And then go and don't be allegiant to this party or that person. Be allegiant to your values and your principles. And then you can build a life and build your ideology. And so I think that is why the Russian Jews in particular have been able to sniff out this Jew hatred way before October 7th. We've been at the forefront of this. We've been called alarmist. We've been called, oh, it's not going to happen. This is America. And we're like, we lived through a country who was supposedly the most powerful country in the world that doesn't exist anymore. We've seen this before. We love United States. I'm a deeply, deeply patriotic American. I want America to succeed. And I think what we need to do now as American Jews is to help our American friends understand that it's not about Israel. The war in Israel is not about Israel. It's an attack on Western culture. And if we're not going to defend it, our children will not our children, our grandchildren are not going to have an American dream or even a Western value system.
We've been at this for 4,000 years. We're going to be okay. The question is America going to be okay? I mean, when you saw, for example, the protests that were going on when Prime Minister Netanyahu spoke in Congress, and you saw them burning the American flag and desecrating statues and on and on. I mean, that's really what America needs to wake up to.
Indeed, indeed. And I hope that the people are waking up. And I hope our fellow Jews are waking up and understanding that we have a responsibility as Americans to bring this to our American friends.
Yeah, talk about being a light unto nations. I mean, we got to be a light unto the United States at this point, is my feeling. So that really dovetails into something I wanted to ask you about, and that's the indoctrination of kids. The little tykes, the little ones. I mean, when I saw after October 7th, a school in St. Louis, a city near and dear to my heart, a kindergarten where they were shouting free, free Palestine. I mean, I had no words.
it really is, it starts from, you're right, it starts from kindergarten. Listen, these are, our enemies are deeply ideological and extremely disciplined, and they are not burdened by being honest or telling the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have a classroom in an elementary public school where there is a map of Israel and it says Palestine on it. And when parents have brought it to the attention of the principal was thoroughly confused why it might be offensive. We have middle schoolers who are asked to debate after reading Anne Frank. There was proposed a debate between Palestinians and Israelis. And it's like, how does one relate to the other? And why are you bringing this here? So, for the most part, teachers go with the least resistance. And most teachers are not educated. They don't know. They're consuming what is being given to them. So we have Gaza trunk shows. We have professional, development taking place during the summer where teachers are given full curriculum with, critical race theory, ethnic studies, whatever you call it, that is deeply anti-Jewish, anti-American, and there's no checks and balances for that. While the textbooks have been vetted, most textbooks in most school districts in the United States have been vetted, and they should not be a problem. What nobody checks are the supplemental materials. What nobody checks is, what does teacher do outside of the textbook? And teachers are not fond of disclosing what it is they do to the parents. So my recommendation, my plea, my beg to the parents, Jewish or not, go into your school and ask them to show you what curriculum are you using. Show me your lesson plans. Show me your objectives. Are you talking about Middle East? Why are you talking about Middle East? So, in ninth grade, there was a story, a ninth grader walked into the world history class where the teacher said that the first recorded genocide in history of the world was the 10 plagues and Jews killing Egyptian babies.
Wow.
So it's not only about Israel. That's what people need to understand. It has very little to do with Israel. It's Jew hatred. We're dealing with Jew hatred. Israel is just a proxy right now for that.
Have you talked at all with Cluz Z kids, let's call them kids, teens, about social pressure in terms of losing friends, having to say to people, look, if you're going to believe that, I can't be your friend. I mean, because I've lost quote unquote friends because of my support of Israel during this period. And I'm just wondering what that's been like for the teens.
I have to tell you, I'm so excited about this generation of teens because they learn these lessons when their parents, when us adults at the beginning of this war, like, oh, I lost followers, or somebody yelled at me on Instagram, or somebody told me that they can't be my friend, they're already so ahead of us. They're like, they're not my friends. If they cannot stand by me as me being a Jew, even though I stood up for them through all of these, different movements, they're not my friends. And that, unfortunately, Jew hatred does bring Jews closer together. I wish it was something else, but that's the truth. And so, yes, they've all lost friends. They've all had to make tough choices, but that's what's going to make them an amazingly strong generation. I think we're going to witness a renaissance of Jewish strength within the United States because these kids who are now 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th graders, they've had to learn this lesson that most American Jewish adults only learned it 10 months ago.
I am so with you. I am really optimistic, and it sounds like you are too, about this next generation because they've really had to go through the fire and they know what it's like. And hopefully, please God, they'll have their own children and be able to impart that at least on that next generation. So there you go. So as I mentioned at the top of the show, we're on the doorstep as we record this of a new academic calendar beginning at all levels, especially college campuses. So what are your general thoughts, looking into Masha's crystal ball?
It's going to be hard. The encampments, if they're not going to come back in encampment form, they're going to be protests. The other side was very busy this summer organizing, training hard, and putting together plans. I don't know if your listeners are aware, but Students for Justice in Palestine, which is a Muslim Brotherhood offshoot at this point on college campuses, they came out with detailed, I don't know, 50, 100 pages instructional manual first week after the war. Nobody comes up with it so fast. They have been preparing for this. So there's going to be a new instructional. And the only thing that I would recommend are two things. One thing, if you need a break, go to Israel for a semester. I'm sorry, like go to Israel for a semester. But if you cannot do that, you need to prepare, you need to find yourself a group of friends, and you need to find yourself a community where you guys can be strong together, be visible, be safe. I think every single Jewish male needs to go take martial arts classes. You need to know how to defend yourselves. And you also need to know how to de-escalate. You need to know when to speak, when to walk away. You don't always speak. You sometimes just walk away because, the only time to speak in a crowd is when you think you're going to get an audience and you think you're going to actually get somewhere. Other than that, for parents of school children, right now, go make friends with your school teachers, your school administrators. Let them get to know you before the crisis. Let them get to know you as a person. So when they get a knock on the door and somebody asks, can I bring this or that speaker who are deeply anti-Semitic, they can at least call you and say, listen, I got this thing. I want to invite them. Maybe you'll get an opportunity to influence them. Maybe you'll get an opportunity to bring somebody else. Maybe you get an opportunity to come and speak yourself if you're able to. But we need to bring ourselves into the spaces instead of going and retreating into our own sort of like spaces. We need to be visible Jews. When Jews are strong, everything is great. It's when we're weak, when we're hiding, when we're taking our mezuzahs. I was so proud of our alumni on college campuses. Many of them have sent their pictures. They're putting mezuzot on their doors. That is a huge thing. Yes, they're putting a target on their backs, but they didn't care. They put Israeli flags in their windows. So the more Jews are visible and the stronger we are, the easier it's going to be for us to be Jewish.
It's normalizing being Jewish is what it is.
Right.
And I'm also hearing from you, Masha, it's being proactive. I love that idea, and let's underscore it, for parents to speak to administrators, to speak to teachers ahead of time, saying what we as a Jewish community have been going through so that they can understand it before classes begin, because then they can at least be on the lookout if they see anything amongst the students happening even.
I'll tell you what I did myself. When my son went to college, I don't remember if it was his freshman year or sophomore year, but it was a fall semester. I emailed to the administration and I said that, listen, I have no idea what classes my kid has taken. I don't, his classes and his grades are his own thing. But every time there is an anti-Semitic incident, unless I see you guys dealing with this, I'm going to post it on social media. I'm going to bring it to the press. I will blow it up. I will be that thorn in your back because I'm watching you guys like a hawk. And when he graduated and I met the provost, he said, oh, he said, legendary Jewish mom. And I said, listen, I still don't know. There's many words in his major. I have no idea. But You're right. There were 200 phone calls made into his office at one instance. There were 300 emails sent to the president at another instant because I mobilized the community, and it's okay for parents to be involved. We're paying the tuition.
Yeah, you're writing the check.
We're writing the checks. We're writing the check for the private high schools. We're writing the check for the schools. If it's a public school, we're still funding it as taxpayers. So it's okay. It's not helicopter parenting if you're telling the administrators, I want to be a friend, I want to be a resource. And if you're not, if you're engaging in Jew hatred, I'm going to be on top of you. I'm going to bring attention to this because nobody wants negative attention.
I love that, Masha. What a great lesson. One or two other points. And one thing I wanted to ask you is just again about social media, because personally, I have found that I need to get off social media. I can't go on Facebook. I can't go on Instagram. I can't go on Twitter for my own mental sanity. And I'm just wondering your experience as well as the teens that are in Club Z. How are they dealing with it? Because again, kids today, they're born with their phones.
Right. Their lives are on social media. And here's what I can tell you. They have shared many times where somebody would private message them because they're posting on their social media. Their friends who don't know or who are mistaken, they private message them and asking them, can you tell me more? Can you share sources? Why do you say this? It usually starts, how could you support Israel? How could you support the IDF? And then they ask and they have conversations. And so that is moving people again from this mistaken, thinking to not the correct thinking, but to much more factually based, much more realistic approach to Israel and to the Jews.
To be informed.
Be informed. I think it's important. We can't give up. Listen, I don't think we could ever win on social media. One Bella Hadid has more followers than their entire Jews in the world.
Which is crazy.
That's what people don't understand how
Yeah.
few of us are. But I don't think we should be giving up. I think we should be posting, we should be having conversations. And again, most of it happens in private messaging, in private chats. And that's okay. Again, it's relationship building.
Well, again, I just say congratulations to you and to the entire Club Z team, everybody that's involved, because again, you're empowering these kids for the next generation. You're also giving them a sense of community so that they know that they're not alone, as well as the confidence to go out into their larger communities to speak about the Jewish people, to advocate for our people, and to advocate for Israel as well. And so we want to give another shout out to the website clubz.org. Once again, clubz.org. They can reach you if anyone wants to start a chapter, anyone wants to donate, anyone wants to get involved, send their kids, whatever it is, clubz.org. And Masha, you are always so inspirational. I just always love speaking with you. And I just want to thank you once again for joining us here on IsraelCast. And I hope the third time that you're on the program, Israel will be at peace. The hostages would have been long released, and we can all just sort of live together, and Club Z will just flourish and go from strength to strength. So really, thank you for all the work that you're doing. And thanks so much for joining us here on IsraelCast.
Stephen, it's always a pleasure. Thank you very much. And yes, may we see our hostages return home, and may we see our soldiers safe at home. So
Amen.
we don't have to, we're not a people who love to fight, but we're a people who will defend ourselves.
Amen. And on that note, we'll have info about Masha and Club Z on the show notes page of our website. It's jnf.org/IsraelCast. I'm sure you've got it after all these years. And of course, we do release new episodes of the show every other Wednesday. And just so you never miss an episode, subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. It's so easy. Simply search for IsraelCast. And don't forget to rate and review us, because that really helps with our rankings, which in turn make it so much easier for more people around the world to find us. Or you can always enjoy the show by visiting us at our website. Once again, jnf.org/IsraelCast. Now it takes a homo shop to put IsraelCast together, and for that we thank Vivian Grossman, Stefan Oberman, JD Krebs, and Ellie Kadrin. Our editors are Jay Rothman and James Casada from Miratone Studios right here in the very heart of New York City. And the music that you hear at the top until the program is titled My Eden. It's by the very talented Rafi Malkiel from his album Water on the Tzaddik label. IsraelCast is powered by Jewish National Fund USA, your voice in Israel. For more info about JNF USA, do visit jnf.org. And if you'd like to write to us with story ideas or just to say howdy, Masha would love to hear from you, and so would I. So do email us at israelcast@jnf.org. Meantime, I'm Stephen Shalowitz. Thank you for tuning in and looking forward to having you join us on future episodes of IsraelCast.